I was telling you.
Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Assembly Budget and Finance Committee meeting. And let's start on this end and start with introductions.
Mike Chadwick, Internal Audit.
Lance Wilbur, OMB.
Rose Foley, Assembly Budget Analyst.
Shirley Nelson, Budget Advisory Chair.
Bill Evans, Assembly.
Elby Greg Johnson.
Tim Smith.
Pete Peterson. Robert Harris, CFO.
Tom Penn, Controller. Dan Moore, Treasurer.
Sherry Heasley.
Okay, MOA financial status, an update on 2016 budget. And I know that at the last meeting, both Mr. Moore and Mr. Wilbur said they're not going to have much to report, but I'm sure you'll have something to say this afternoon. So the floor is yours.
Okay, I'll start, if that's okay. So for revenues, no known changes to announce. We're somewhere in that $4 million positive range for revenues for general government. That's a positive variance. We do have a number of items that are being posted this week by the Controller Division that are part of the year-end process. And some of them are, fairly significant revenue items, but they're just sort of normal year-end accruals and things like that. So there's about $11 million left to be posted in the system that we're aware of. There's a couple special adjustments they do at the very end of the year. One is for investment income, the other is for the property tax true-up. And those come very late in the process. So right now, all the investment activity from December has not yet been posted. And so that is going to have some effect. It probably will be some negative effect because December was quite volatile. I don't know exactly what the range of that is, but I know we have $4 million positive variance around that range. It could be in the high hundreds of thousands, maybe, of a hit from investments, but it's not going to wipe out the variance at all. We'll still have a positive variance. And the other one is on property taxes, and I just don't know. That's done around March 7th. And property taxes, from what we can see, seem pretty stable, but we never know how that adjustment will go at the end of the year. Other than that, I think that's about it. We're going to resume our normal monthly revenue reports in either May or early June. That would be our cycle. So other than that, it's really pretty stable. So it's positive overall.
Okay, thank you. Let me just take a moment here. Are you our new IT director?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
You want to introduce yourself and then join us at the table, please?
Okay, sure.
Since this is your first meeting?
Yes. And I apologize for being late because I'm in the wrong room today. My name is Sal Park. I'm your new IT director.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Okay, Lance, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So maybe to follow up on Dan's comments, likewise, we don't see any surprises as it relates to projected expenditures. We still expect to be in the positive or less expenditures than we have. I don't see anything that's going to get us over right now. I think last month I reported that from the Controller's Office, pretty much all of the books expenditures from the departments needed to be in earlier this week, and when in a combination of some of the things Dan mentioned, we really won't know what our fund balance is as a result of all of those things until some of the actions that Dan mentioned. And looking ahead for about a month, I think that will be the time in which we'll present something to the mayor for consideration for whatever the mayor might want to do with fund balance. So again, we're looking forward to the year-end close and then closing 2015. And as we're looking to 2016 for first quarter, one of the things that we are doing at OMB is we're starting some initial analysis as it relates to what might happen to our budget relates to the tax cap initiative. If there's an adjustment to the tax cap as relates to what might be on the ballot. So we're looking at what that impact would be. And I think beyond that, I don't have much more to report, Madam Chair, unless you have some specific questions.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, I have a question. Can you give us a rough idea of what the impact is going to be? What's the tax cut ballot proposition if it passes on the 2016 budget?
Right. It would be roughly about 1.6 to 1.5, 1.6 million. The things that are going to affect it.
1.6 million in cuts that would have to happen.
Correct.
Thank you.
So there's a couple key ingredients that we look to when we're making the adjustment on the tax cap, and that is the construction you know, we make a projection on the amount of valuation for construction, so we'll have that in, and then we also true up our projections for population and CPI, and so those two things will then also affect the actual amount, and then that will determine whether or not the 1.6 is plus or minus. But you know, we're always sort of looking ahead to make sure that we can take actions if we need to. So.
Which is a good thing. Okay, thank you, Mr. Wilbur. Ms. Nelson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bryant Robbins attended our past Budget Advisory Commission meeting in February, and we had put together approximately 20 questions for the property tax exemption. So we don't have it formalized yet, so we will be working on that and getting the information out to you. So he answered, it was very nice, and put together a whole good presentation also on the 2016 property valuations that you had also seen. So he presented that to the commission. And so it's an interesting response to some of the questions, and I think you'll find interest in it. Also, thank you so much for pushing forward the sprinkler exemption. And I think that total actually increased, and Rose had contacted us to get the total amount that came through Bryant. So it's well over 600,000, and I think you are presenting something to the legislators on that as well.
It's included in our legislative program, asking for some language to change the state statute so that it leaves it up to municipalities whether or not they want to do the exemption. So it's a good start.
Right.
You know.
Well, thank you very much
yeah.
for that.
You're
And then
welcome.
also in the March meeting, I guess we'll start focusing a little bit more on the school budget. That is also been a topic right now. We haven't spent a lot of time on it, but we will this next meeting and so on. And I think one thing that we want to work on with the commission is the outcome of the budget too, the school outcome. It seems like so much attention gets focused constantly on the budget, and that's been the talk, that we want to make sure that included in that is the outcome for the students as well. We don't want to lose sight of that, because I think so much attention goes to the monetary factor, and how can we maybe change that a little bit, that dialogue. So, other than that, that's what we're working on. Thank you.
Ms. Nelson, Mr. Steele.
Two questions. One is the other item that you brought forward last year was the nonprofits. What are we doing on that, Madam Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Steele. I just wrote a note, so we're on the same page.
All
We
right.
are still going to have that discussion
Okay.
at the committee level. We just haven't gotten to it. There's another.
Next on the agenda.
But we're definitely gonna have a discussion, hopefully in March, yeah. But thank you for asking. And of course, they'll be at the table.
With regards to with regards to the education budget or outcomes, preschool is a huge issue. I think we're cutting out most of it. And just talking to the principals and the folks involved, they're real concerned about that. So.
And you're what?
Pardon me?
You're what with the preschool?
The preschool budget, the fact that with the budget changes coming down from the state, one of the major things to get cut out is preschool.
Right.
And that's it's had a huge positive benefit in terms of kids getting off to a good start in kindergarten. And that's one where I think the money's well spent, but that's personal. And if we look at that, I think we'll find that the data, not only here, but nationally, shows that it's a good investment.
Madam Chair, I do agree, the earlier you catch them, but I think I've been in education for many years, and I've followed this, and this is sort of from my background and also following the budget for many years. I think that what we would like to look into is the K through 3 as well, because if you can get that teacher-student ratio down, I think that you would see a tremendous difference in there too, instead of trying to spread, such early education. But if you can focus K3 and get the results that you need to on there, we'd be even further ahead.
ASD has always tried to do that, always kept up through third grade at a lower teacher ratio,
Right.
teacher-student ratio, knowing that reading is the big issue.
By third grade,
By third
you
grade.
can't dispute it. You have to be on task.
So I think the school district tries to do that. I don't know what they're doing this year on it.
Well, I think we'd like to put some recommendations through, because I believe that you could put teachers' aides in those positions too, so that it helps with that ratio. And then you get the result that we need. I think there are ways that it can be accomplished, and I think it definitely needs to be a huge focus and stuff. And I've passed on information to the school board from Kennewick, Washington. I've mentioned it several times, to especially Pat Higgins. There's a study that did just a huge overhaul with the early education, and they just didn't, and it went all the way up through high school with the results that needed to be done. So, because you're not passing on kids that are not proficient by grade 3, you have to focus, you know. But that's a whole nother discussion. So, it is an important one though, and one that I firmly believe in, and I know it is doable. So, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steele. Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Anything else from anybody on the subject? Okay, next we're gonna go to our new information technology director, and he is going to give us an update on the $4.6 million capital investment in that department. Mr. Paula, you have the floor.
Thank you, ma'am. So before I put on my IT director hat, and since it's the first time I'm in your presence, as a citizen, I'd like to thank you all council members for your service. I really appreciate it. You guys did a tough job, and it's my first chance to meet in person. So now, putting on my IT.
Appreciate that.
Sure. I put on my IT director's hat. It's my first meeting, so you're going to notice a little bit of lack of being completely 100% prepared, because I only brought 6 copies of paper, and I realize there's a lot more than 6 people here. So you're going to have to be comfortable and share a little bit with us. For the council members, I've got one each.
Hands on.
Yes, sir.
We call it the assembly members.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just call me on.
Assembly.
Well, you have any questions? That's good.
So, yes, I will attempt to get you up to date with what's going on with that original $4.6 million that you approved. So, obviously, I thank you now in this role for that investment, because it's making a huge difference in terms of what we will be able to achieve. So, I'm going to be on page 2. I'm going to walk through this a little bit, not necessarily read every word, but we'll take questions as you have them. That decision basically is enabling us in a few key areas. Obviously, security is number one. It's plugging some major holes that exist. It's also allowing us, not just on the desktop, which has got most of the conversation is all about this XP and the desktops and all these machines that are getting replaced. But what is also not to be missed is that this also allows us to harden, which is the term that's used, the server infrastructure that's behind all the desktops. And so part of the dollars that you approved will go not just to the desktop piece, but also to improve our security with respect to the backend, which is all the servers, which is basically where the hackers technically really want to get to, because that's where all your data really is, other than your users' data, which is on the desktop. What you also allowed is the ability for 810 municipal employees to have brand new machines and an operating system. And you also enabled through this acquisition a license that allows us to provide updated licensing to all 3,000 odd, whatever the final number is, of municipal resources that can all get upgraded over time to the current Microsoft platform. What it also means is that you've allowed for having all 3,000 of them use some of these Microsoft tools that would facilitate collaboration amongst this population over time. We are actually choosing to initiate some of this capability right now with the Synergy project and using this collaboration capability with the Synergy project to improve the communications between Synergy team members and MOA team members, etc. So we're actually piloting it as we speak, with the expectation that when we go to the next phase, we will have those tools available to us. What you've also allowed is the ability for us to upgrade the entire email infrastructure at the MOA. What that will mean to the user population is they will no longer have to worry about the size of their emails or whether their mailboxes get full and IT has to keep updating and dealing with that level of user frustrations. So that is something that you allowed. What you also allowed for is the fact that we can now use Microsoft's very redundant technology and put all our mail in the cloud and not have to worry about backup and disaster recovery and losing it all. It'll all be in the cloud. What that also means is you allow people to be able to access that mail whether they're sitting in the office or they're not in the office, because they will have access to that mail outside as well.
Can I interrupt you and ask a question? Because this is really important to me.
Sure.
Okay, so is the platform for the new portal going to be improved too? It is awful right now.
It is going to be improved, yes.
Okay.
When and what the plan is, I don't have my arms around yet.
Okay, but that's the good news, that it's going to be improved. Mr. Steele?
The other point is most of us do not have any computers. We have access home through our own computers. And so there is no continuity necessarily between what level of software you need or even access to cloud. I do, but we're all kind of different. So I'm not sure how that helps us. I mean, that certainly is going to help the union as a whole.
I'm sure I'm going to learn about all the exceptions to the rule as I go down this journey, and we'll have to figure it out.
And for me, the only exception to the rule is the fact that I don't care about a municipal computer because I don't want one, but I access my email through the portal from a web browser, and it's so bad. But, I'm able to respond to my traditional emails, but it's really not good. Thank you. Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the community is drawn to Windows 10. I have Windows 7 at home. Is that going to create any problems for me? I'm not an expert on this, so.
No, it will not create any problems for you if your primary utilization is as of email. So,
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Access to documents is sometimes difficult for me. At times.
The expectation is that we have a foundation that we can build on. Based on the industry, it is a pretty solid foundation.
Thank you. Please continue.
You're welcome. Something else that you approved through this process is the ability for IT to use some automation tools to do things that right now are very manual and to some extent not very thorough. And some of that examples might be automatically updating and making updates to desktops as they need to be made and keeping them current, delivering software automatically through the network to users that need it when they request it. That's I understand, a painful process right now. So those are some of the efficiencies that you approved in this investment that you're making. Slide 3 is a quick update, mostly summarizing what I've just said. But basically, there's 598 physical machines that are being swapped out. There's 212 existing machines that will get this new operating system. All of them will get the new user productivity suite tools, the Word and Excel and Windows and all that, and Office 2015. And then that will get rolled out to the entire organization down the road because we have a license for it. I talked about points 5, 6, and 7. On slide 4 is the money slide. It tells you what the plan was in terms of where those $4.6 million were planned to be allocated and are still planned to be allocated. Obviously, $2.97 million was the big one, and that is for the Microsoft license for the enterprise. $1 million for all the desktop hardware and replacement. The $183,000 is for the network tools that would allow us to do that software distribution and that kind of stuff. $230,000 is for us to get our email in the cloud and hosted. And then there's $180,000 which is for labor to manage and implement this whole thing.
What's your name? Mr. Evans?
It looks like on the list, there's about just over $1 million that is total cost for labor in various areas. Is that all anticipated to be contract labor outside of municipal employees, or is part of that?
That was the intention. This is for contract labor and feet on the ground.
And then is that something that's going to be put out to bid? Do we know yet, or how that's going to?
It is going to go out through the regular channels, whatever the appropriate channels are.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Thank you. So slide 5 is, as we are going through this process, I wanted to make you aware of possibilities. That's what they are right now. The first one is that when the municipality gets completely enabled with this ability and all the software that's in this enterprise license, there's a possibility when there's 2,000 odd people that are accessing the cloud for email, there's a possibility that we will have to upgrade the network access to the cloud. It's done in different ways, and the one that is currently on the table as being a possible solution is just to have some hardware that's on the in the networking world that'll help us do this. So, and that is estimated right now to be about $300,000 if we need to go down that path. The expectation would be down the road we know what the volume is and we get a handle on it and decide if we need to do this. The second number one is getting older software on newer machines. This is going to be an interesting one. I don't fully know the scope yet. But there is a very real possibility that as we go through this process of, by department, determining the number of machines that need to be changed out, we will find that they use software that has to be tested on this new platform. We're going to find that there is software that needs to be upgraded because the upgraded version is the one that's compatible with Windows 10. We will find that in some cases, a lot of cases, we'll have to find the money to upgrade it, the software. We're going to find in some cases possibly that the software was purchased, but we don't exactly have proof that we actually did purchase it, which then means that we can't legally reinstall it without having that proof that we actually bought it. I'm hoping that that's not a big problem, but that is something else that we will have to deal with.
Hold on, Mr. Chadwick, you have a question?
It's like I remember somewhere during a discussion that in order to use PeopleSoft, we had to stay with Windows XP.
That was a long time ago.
But it seems like I remember hearing something about that we couldn't access PeopleSoft without staying with Windows XP.
I will have to validate that, and regardless, there'll have to be a workaround because that's not an option. I mean, security-wise, we know that XP's got a problem, so we'll have to find a technical solution around that if that's the case.
I remember some people saying that they were going to have to keep some of their older computers and keep XP on there so that they could access PeopleSoft.
And if I can follow up, I remember that too. I was around for that, and I remember that too. But hopefully, the good news is we're now going to have SAP, and hopefully, we won't have that same issue.
Yeah, I just,
you know,
the timing of this, so if this was implemented this year, could impact people who need to access PeopleSoft right now.
So there is absolutely no question that will be solved before we go forward because we don't have the option of.
So,
glad to hear that. Thank you, Mr. Chadwick. Did you have a question?
yes,
Mr. Payne?
through the chair. I know that was an issue because we all have two computers, but I know AWU had a workaround, and we kept trying to get that. It has to do with Excel, being able to use PeoplesSoft and Excel. So we have to use 3. But I know it can be worked around because Amy does it.
So we'll get there.
Thank you, Mr. Bean.
So,
Please continue.
thank you, ma'am. Slide 5, I'm done with slide 5 then. Slide 6 is, so this last topic we just covered about applications, that is the big unknown, because every department that we roll something out to will have applications, and those applications have to work so that when we change somebody's machine, they're fully functional. Since I don't know exactly the scope of what this set of applications is that need to be ready by department, there's a little uncertainty as to when exactly we can fully execute the migration. There will be some quick wins. There will be some departments that are ready to go pretty quick because they don't have a lot of applications that we need to worry about. They'll go quickly. There'll be others that we've got to do this analysis and work with the departments and figure out what the approach is for their applications before we go ahead and start swapping machines out. Because what we absolutely do not want to do is we do not want to take somebody's machine, give them a brand new one, and then find their functionality is degraded in the process. That's backwards, so we're not going to do that.
Mr. Steele.
That's potentially an issue, I suspect, with the new SAP system, in terms of making sure that everything's going to be compatible. And funding for that also.
Yes. So, in Q1, we've got the hardware, we've done some pilot work deployments already with the Synergy team. We have started the deployment of the collaboration tool, and we've begun the process of doing the analysis of software by department. So that's underway right now. For Q2, the plan is to start testing the applications that need to be tested, have reviews with the individual department directors with respect to their departments and their software, and come up with an appropriate dispensation for each of their departments. Have a review with the CFO on financials, obviously, and then define and develop our training approach and our training schedule for our end users. That is planned for the second quarter. And then third quarter, the plan is that we would have had our department-specific conversations, we would have a deployment schedule, and we will execute the deployment beginning early part of third quarter.
I have a question. Okay, so isn't there a newer version of Office out?
Yes.
Okay, so why are we going with 2013 instead of the newer version?
I don't have the technical answer for you, but the answer that I can give you is that 2013 is a stable, mature platform. As opposed to 2016, that is the newer one. But
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. I have 2013, and there are issues, but maybe it's just my issue. Okay, thank you.
But that's
yeah. Okay, I understand. Thank you.
The remaining are just. I think I'd probably go hit slide 9. I did not look at the time for it, but basically this is. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is the breakout right now as it stands of the departments and the hardware they're going to get for pictures purposes.
You want to talk about anything else?
Slide 10 is just a little bit more detailed, but not much different. It was for my backup in case you ask me those specific questions. And then I just thought I'd share this with you as a level set. The last slide, slide 11, there's conversations that happen about security, and we're all sensitive to it. And in my opinion, it's something that we really need to focus on much more. We want to get away from being what would be considered a soft target because we're out here. And so I just wanted to share, just take 2 minutes to share what the framework is that we're going to be building on, because I probably will come back to you at various points in time on the subject of security.
Well, we have half an hour to take your time.
Well, it's you know, we're going to start an effort pretty quickly to start educating the user population on just little practices that they can do to prevent a security breach. And that's the center of this whole framework, which is securing the human. And that is simple things, and you might think they're really trivial, but trust me, they cause issues across the planet, which is people opening up things they shouldn't be opening up, and simple things like that. So there's a program we've subscribed to, and we will have a 2-minute set of videos that go out, and we're going to encourage the population to do that and increase the security awareness across the community. The next tier around it is we're going to improve our, and it's in process, the patching and the hardening of the servers, et cetera, that we talked to you about, as well as the whole XP conversation is around the operating system, its weaknesses, and we're fixing that obviously by taking XP out of the equation. So we've got a robust antivirus program in place. That's the next tier outside. What has been implemented, and if I'm repeating something, I apologize. What has been implemented in the last few months is we put in a pretty robust intrusion prevention system. So we are monitoring our environment, and we're monitoring it towards external intrusion and people that are trying to hack in and attack. We've put in sensors in our environment that are tuned to attacks on government entities. So there is a capability there that it's constantly updated, just like an antivirus, except it's called Albert, and I don't really know what the full acronym stands for, but it allows a government entity to be tuned and watching for specific types of attacks that are targeted towards government. That is in place now for the MOA. And also worth mentioning is that this is a really great example to me of how things should work, and I hope to make work going forward. This solution is not just an MOA general government solution. The MLMP is involved in it, AWO is involved in it. There is one platform that is providing this coverage to the entire municipality. There's a security team that consists of members from all the different entities. They meet regularly, they're part of this conversation. So this is really an excellent model to keep building. I just want to share that with you. And then the last thing is we've got a layer outside where logs go from all the traffic that's hitting us that goes into a provider that's a security provider, it's a government entity. And they review all this log traffic and they report back and they alert us very proactively on possibilities of intrusion and things like that. So it's really worth mentioning that a lot of steps have been taken in the last few months in this organization. Before I got here, this is not got anything to do with me. And that is something that I think y'all should be aware of, because it's actually pretty a very good start towards hardening, and your XP contribution is actually very well suited to this whole. Thank you.
You're welcome. I just want to take a moment to thank you for this presentation. It's really nice to follow up after the appropriate funds to get an update on exactly what's happening with the funds. So I personally really appreciate it. I'm sure the committee does also. Any questions? No? Okay. Audience participation. Do you have anything you want to say or ask?
I have a question. What is the timeline for doing all this stuff? Sorry, I don't have a presentation. Maybe it's in there.
No, 2016.
Okay, so it'll be done by the end of the year.
That's the plan.
Okay. When are you guys starting?
Oh, we've already started.
Oh, okay. Got it.
It's in pilot. Stuff is happening.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may, just one question on the computer distribution by department. I didn't see any with the police. Is that not in? Because the fire department, obviously right at the top with the huge number, but just glancing.
Good question.
I'll have to get back to you on what and why exactly it's not.
I didn't know if it was listed under something else, but it kind of was.
I'll find out.
Yeah, and if you can just let the committee know, that would be really, really good.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions? Did you have something you wanted to say, Mr. Harris?
No.
Okay. All right, well, meeting's done. Thanks for being here, everybody.